Welcome to a brand new segment by Socially Desi. This is the Hustle Lounge.
Hustle Lounge aims at showcasing stories of entrepreneurs from across the world. The idea is to bring narratives that speak of real hustles that every founder has to go through to start and also run one's business.
In the Hustler clan, it truly takes one to know one, right, Garima?
Absolutely, Anurag. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Expect life lessons, hacks, and some real learnings and stories of entrepreneurs from world over.
In this episode of the Hustle Lounge, we are interacting with Shreya Prakash. She is the CEO and co-founder of FlexiBees. FlexiBees provides vetted, part-time, project-based, and remote working talent to businesses via qualified women professionals returning to work after a career break. So, Garima, excited to start this episode. But before we do that, what is the hustle that we are talking about today?
Thanks, Anurag, and welcome, Shreya. So, the hustle that we are talking about is true flexibility and how flexi is in their DNA. And I think that's a hustle, right? Just be flexible all the time and keep reinventing and keep working around that. And I think that's a true hustle that we see in Shreya and her team. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So,
Wonderful.
Shreya, let me start by asking you. You have a product that Anurag just described. How does that fit in today's business scenario, which is so competitive, which has talent, from all over? How does this product really fit in, and how do you see the need for this product, in today's market scenario?
Right. Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here. So, what we provide, which is basically flexible talent, is very, very relevant in today's times. I would say it's been relevant since the past few years, since business environments today are so competitive. Things need to move really quickly. Businesses and bigger businesses as well as smaller businesses don't necessarily have the time to sort of spend 3 months in hiring someone, 6 months in training them. You need to move at the speed of light. You need to look at what your competition is doing and maybe pivot quickly. So all of these things, of course, need a mindset of agility, but they also need the ability to hire people in a more agile way, to hire experts quickly, to be able to find skills that perhaps you don't have in your in-house pool. All of this points towards flexible hiring. And on the other end, there are businesses which are small and growing, but they perhaps don't have the affordability to hire full-time experienced talent. So again, you need models through which they can hire talent, which is experienced as well as affordable. And especially talking about today, the pandemic has kind of underlined all of these things very clearly. You need to move quickly. You need to enter into new areas, new distribution models, new consumer habits, new markets, all of these things which require you to quickly hire, maybe have lean teams. All of those things today are relevant, and that's where our what we offer, our offering finds a fit. We offer talent that is flexible, which means that you can hire experienced people through part-time, through project-based, through remote working models, which gives you as a business the ability to be lean and agile and competitive.
So, Shreya, talking about offerings, how do you create and pitch these roles to the organizations?
So when we started, we thought that it will maybe take a bit to convince businesses. It will take a bit of education. But we realized to our delight that it wasn't really taking so much education. We went to startups. We went to small and growing businesses. A lot of them intuitively understood that hiring experienced folks through more cost-effective ways, which is part-time, flexi-time, project-based, was a very good way to. It was a hack, in fact, to be able to get this talent on board without having to pay expensive full-time salaries. They got that. So, it wasn't as much of an uphill climb as one would imagine. Of course, we had to create awareness around it. That's what we do. We create awareness around it. We tell businesses the benefits that they can get out of hiring flexibly. And a little bit of, education we had to do around remote working, which again, after the pandemic, has become significantly easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic. So this sounds fairly simple, in the sense that you found a need gap and you're saying that one can get good talent at an affordable price. But just for anyone or entrepreneurs who are listening to this and are trying to build pricing models, and trying to build products around this, can you sort of take us back to when you started to discuss this? How do you find that right balance between putting a price to a certain talent, or maintaining sort of a balance between quality and price? Are there some tools, or could you take us through steps you had to go through to say that how do I basically strike that balance between good quality and price, in which both parties, it's a win-win for both the client and the provider in this case?
Right. No, this is, of course, extremely an important part of the entrepreneurship journey. Increasingly, we are seeing that, there is no compromise on quality, especially if you're talking about talent. That's just not possible. We are talking about small and growing businesses. They cannot make a mistake. The whole proposition rests on the fact that we are able to give them talent that is the right fit the first time round. If they had the time and the resources to really waste hiring the wrong fit, then they wouldn't have come to us. So for us, it's extremely important to get the right fit. And like you said, it seemed like a very simple thing, or it seems like a very simple thing when I say that there's demand there, there's supply here, people who want to work flexibly, and businesses that want flexible talent. So it seems simple, but the complexity is actually in the match, and that's what we focus on over the last 4 years. That's what we put a lot of our energy building, to match the demand to the supply well, which essentially is quality. So we not only match, say, for the functional fitment, we also match for some other factors which are important in this case, like time availability match, like time slot, commitment, drive. A lot of these are reasons why flexible engagements fail. So it was very important for us to get this right. And at the beginning, in fact, we weren't even thinking about how to make it a profitable, model. First, it was important to get the right service level out, get the right quality out, because without that, there is nothing. I mean, if the talent doesn't work, if it doesn't work for businesses, then then what are we doing here? So first, we had to make sure that what we are giving to our clients is the right quality. It actually works for them without having to go through, multiple replacements, or having to train people too expensively. So I think it's for any startup, you're entering a little bit into a disruptive space. If disruptive is, say, to used and abused a word, then I would say a space which has where it has not been done before. That's the definition, pristine definition of a startup. So you're trying to change the status quo. So your solution has to be that much better than whatever today exists or passes for that industry. So you have to focus on quality. And if you got the need correctly, if people do want that offering, do want that product, you'll figure out a business model. So I would say, everything starts with the need. If the need is there, you will have to fulfill it with the right quality, else you don't have a business. And if because there is a need and you're getting the right quality, the business model will emerge.
So again, if you have to summarize everything in, let's say, 3 to 4 steps that an organization or an entrepreneur should take in order to ensure that, like, for example, they are into this space which is very disruptive, they are bringing a new service or product into the market, and then the challenge is hiring, right? So what would be your advice to them in terms of, let's say, 3 to 4 steps that they need to take one after the other to ensure that they hire right?
I would say, so even though we are in the talent business, I would say that for any entrepreneur, when they are starting out, unless and until they have millions of dollars in funding, they should probably run some experiments on their own. It doesn't make sense to, say, build a palace without having actually, built a roof, or build the 4 walls and build a roof, and to see if this structure withstands what it's meant to. So it's important to MVP, what we call in the startup world, to build a minimal viable product and to see if it works. Then maybe start hiring for skills that you will need, complementary skills for where you want to take the company. So a lot of people actually come to us and say, for example, that we want to hire a content person, we want to hire a digital marketing person who can do paid. So then we tell them that why don't you first try out a few content routes yourself? Maybe hire a graphic designer if you don't have design skills. Then after that, maybe the next step would be to hire a content strategist or a content marketer. And then once you figured out some of the organic, then maybe perhaps you can get into paid. And hire a digital marketer. So it's important to not just hire a team because it sounds very glamorous and amazing to have 5 people working for you, but to do it step by step.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I think that's so true. I mean, I also meet people, who are ready to jump onto the inorganic ways of doing marketing. They would want their ads to be everywhere, but who's going to create those ads is a different thing. But you need to have your aesthetics, your brand first in front of you, have the design language in front of you, and then go ahead with doing all the other activities. So I mean, a great point there. Following to this, I think in the last couple of years we have seen the emergence of remote work, and this is something which is gonna stay for a longer period of time. In fact, a lot of the corporates are moving to a very hybrid, a big hybrid model. Some of the organizations have totally gone remote, and you and your organization were, I think, 100% remote since the beginning. So from your founders to your teams, everyone was working remotely. What were the challenges, if you have to lay down a few of them for us today?
We didn't have too many challenges, actually. So like I said, we 3 in the co-founding team itself were in different cities, countries. In fact, I was in India, and eventually 2 of my co-founders ended up being in Singapore. But the thing is, life में ऐसा बहुत कम होता है. It happens very rarely that you want to do something badly and you have people around you who you like, who also want to do that thing. Everybody is in the same mindset, everybody is at the same place in life. And the fact that it happened to me and to us, the 3 of us, it is nothing short of a miracle that we 3 felt strongly about the same thing. We wanted to leave our jobs and do this thing. So it was a very small thing in the scheme of things. It's an entrepreneurship journey is so deep. It has to have so many levels of matching, if I were to use that word. The fact that we weren't in the same country or city, it never occurred to us as such a huge problem. It occurred to others, so we would always hear at that time that, oh, how are you going to make it work? But it never seemed to us to be such a big obstacle. We were friends, we understood each other, we had the intent if there were any challenges, which honestly can happen even if you're living in the same house, right? People, sleep in the same beds as their spouses, and there are still problems. So if there are any challenges, then we had the intent to work those out. Geography never played a role. So and because we were always in that mindset, we built everything in our company, the same way. So we never saw being remote as a liability. We always saw it as something that could enable us to hire people from geographies that nobody was hiring talent from. So our best salesperson that we hired at that time, and till date one of the best sales professionals, she was in Visakhapatnam at that point. Such a great professional, great person, but there weren't too many opportunities for her then. Because we were open to hiring remotely, we immediately hired her. So we always saw it as something that liberated us instead of constrained us, and we built the company that way. So if you were to ask me what are the challenges, say, that brick and mortar companies would face when moving to remote, they would face the challenge of, say, communication. You need to communicate more. whether it is your goals, visions, or whether it is, simple things like an update. You need to be consciously communicating, create those channels. A new joinee joins, comes and starts working with you. You need to make sure they have people around them they can quickly go to when they have a doubt, which all happens much more naturally, say, in a brick and mortar company. But because we were always this way, we created systems for it without having to think too much about it. And yeah, come the pandemic, that's when we started thinking about how we can help others do what we've been doing well enough for the last few years, which is when we thought of some of these things. So yeah, it's never really been a big challenge for us. It's something that powers us, in fact.
Fantastic. So, I mean, it's really interesting because in the last sort of 2 years in the pandemic, I think a lot of companies have been forced to understand that trust is key. And, like trust has become the new currency today, right? Even for the
Yeah.
employees. And gone are the days you wanted someone right under your nose to do things, and people were so used to it, and there was insecurity at both levels. Even there were people who would say that if I have to work at home, I'm not able to, I have to be in that office environment, and all these things were very, very sort of widely spoken about. And a lot of companies are investing, as I understand, a lot of big corporates are investing in terms of technology that can monitor, or dashboards, or processes, and some kind of standardization. So do you use some of those? Do you have for instance, these processes in place, or dashboards, or any kind of tech support which can enable the whole ecosystem of remote working?
We do have a few things. So we have good reporting structures where the function sort of is leans into it. So say sales, for example. There is a reporting structure needed in sales. There are trackers and reviews and things like that. But say for a function like marketing, the same level of reporting may not be needed. So we actually do what is needed for the function. In marketing, for example, we have a drumbeat meeting, say, every week, and we sort of go through how our campaigns have been doing and some of those things. So whatever the function needs, we have those trackers and reporting mechanisms. But yes, trust is at the very it's at the core of how we work. So for us, a majority of our team also works part-time. We hire from our own pool, which is majority returning mothers. And a lot of our team works part-time. A lot of my sales team works part-time. And I have never found myself curious about whether my team started working, or at what point they stopped working. So I would say that too much technology is actually, it erodes that trust. It erodes the relationship. So if you want to install something that at any given point in time can monitor whether your people are working or not, I mean, a that erodes that relationship, and B, if somebody wants to sort of find a way around it, they'll find a way around it. So, technology is at this point not a match for human ingenuity. So, I would say that hiring the right people, and then giving them the right, say, tools to perform, and then leaving them to perform it. Of course, having the right tracking mechanisms to figure out where they are facing challenges, if there is something better you can do, or any issues of non-performance. So those things are important, but I really don't. We don't over track or over monitor. In fact, I would say we would under monitor. We don't believe in monitoring whether people are working or not. We're all adults over here. People are in charge of their own, working day. Yeah.
So well said, Shreya. In terms of what's the point of creating a system where you're breaking the very ethos of it, which is trust, right? But I have a further, last question rather to the similar thought process, that at the end of the day, your brand is at stake, right? And all companies have a certain appraisal process. So in this case, if it's an employee, who's on a retainer or a contract, or coming in as a consultant from outside, how do you get into quality management from your end as well, apart from the company sort of tracking their performance and quality? Because at the end of the day, you are building a brand, and FlexiBees name is at stake.
Right, right. So we take complete onus of the quality of the talent. So if there is, first of all, we do what we do to ensure that the talent we are giving the company is vetted through multiple different steps. And that we actually put in a lot of effort. It's a business cost, but it's at this, like I said, at the center of what we do, the vetting of the talent. So we do that. So that itself is how we manifest our commitment to the quality of the talent. And then even after that, we keep a line of communication open with both ends, but especially with the talent as well, in case they need any hand holding, coaching, anything else that they may need. And what that allows us to do is also to then be able to intervene. If at all there is a problem, then we are better sort of aware of what it is that's been going on, and we are able to then maybe coach the talent or maybe the client, as the case may be, much more in a much more informed way. And then finally, if at all nothing else has worked, and in the remote possibility of it not working, we replace the talent. So these are the few things that we do to ensure that, or to show that we have the ownership of talent. What we don't take ownership of is the work itself. So we don't do that, because a lot of what a lot of the talent that we are placing are in the knowledge economy. These are people who will work best. The work will be best served if they are in direct contact with the client. They are working together with the client. So we don't have the ownership of the work, but we have complete ownership of the talent. And in fact, 65% of our revenue comes from repeat business, repeat clients. So that's
Fantastic.
That's a testimony to the fact that we give the quality that businesses need.
So true, so true. I mean, I think it's really important that businesses take ownership of the talent. Like when you are in this business where you are providing talent, you are providing resources to any organization, and like you're working with a lot of these startups, and like we spoke about earlier in the session, that the founders, they really want the best for the buck, right? And when it comes to hiring talent, be it on a part-time basis or a full-time, I think the quality really matters, and the performance at the end of the day matters. So kudos to you and your team for that. I think these are really important steps that you need to take as an organization in order to provide these kind of services and talent to other sectors and domains. Thank you so much, Shreya, for being with us on the show today. I think our listeners and viewers would have gained very, very insightful actions that they can actually take in their day-to-day lives, and I'm sure they can get in touch with you on LinkedIn, or guys, you can also check them out on flexibees.com. And I mean, if you have any requirements, go check them out. If you are a talent, you want to get in touch with Shreya, go check her out. I think that's going to be a great way. Any closing thoughts from you, Shreya?
Thank you. I think, thanks for giving me this platform. We are very committed to helping businesses like ourselves, which are small, growing businesses who, for whom the difference between talent, which is good and experienced and, good at what they do, and somebody who's not, is so immense. It's so immense. It can make such a huge difference to their growth, to their numbers for that year, for the next quarter. We're really committed to bring that talent to these kinds of businesses who are powering, innovative solutions for the world. And of course, our journey started with helping, qualified women get back to work. It's a huge waste of potential. And then conversely, it's a big, it's a fount of, talent that is currently lying untapped in India specifically, but in many parts of the world. And we want to make sure that while there is a war for talent going on, such a great pool doesn't go untapped.
True.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a great case study, not only for, I would say even for corporates to learn, to understand the flexibility at work can really bring out more productivity. And there are so many people just talking about it as to, in the last few months, how the same resources have been far more productive than they have ever been. So fantastic on sort of noticing that early on and giving such a great platform to good talent. And all the best to you and your team. And we hope to interact with you again soon, Shreya.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had a great time.
So, guys, thank you all for tuning in today. Please do reach out to us at hustlelounge@sociallydesi.com for any suggestions, feedback, and collaborations that you may have in mind. See you next Tuesday and keep hustling.